welcome to Dream Big. I'm Hannah Viviers. Thank you so much for joining us. Our guest today is Riaan Manser, adventurer extraordinaire. And he's going to be speaking to us today about his latest expedition. Him and his girlfriend, Fasti, rode from Morocco to New York, 10,765 kilometers, 133 days out at sea. It was a grueling adventure, and he joins us now to tell us about his latest expedition. Thanks for joining us, Riaan.
Cheers.
Oh my goodness, I've been tracking your journey while you were out at sea, and I've been seeing so many people interview you, and so many people have been asking you questions about the journey. But I want to ask you, you've done quite a number of these for you, and I want you to set the tone of this interview. What would you like to share, number one thing that you would like people to know about this particular expedition from Morocco to New York?
Yeah, it was another privilege to be able to do this journey. I know my life sometimes is viewed as too glamorous because I'm a glorified traveler, essentially. They're tough journeys. As you ask me that question, it hits home to me that this story was the most incredible love story. So it would have turned out to be, goodness, you know. So again, I go with gut feel. I've had no chance to really think about it in depth, but it's an adventure love story. I don't think that's ever been told. And yes, here it happened in the last 6 months of mine and Fasti's life.
Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about Fasti. I mean, she couldn't join us today, but I've seen some of the interviews where you've both done the interview, and it's just incredible. You were saying to me she's the first African woman to have done this. Did you know how tough she was before you did this?
No, there's no way. I knew she was determined. I've done a lot of cycling, a lot of running, a lot of swimming with her, and we exercise, but there's such a difference in being able to go home and then just have your warm plate of food and a soft bed to sleep in after you've exercised the day. So to see her day after day just get tougher and then be the one pulling me, where I would be considered the one who's leading all the time, it wasn't like that. When we were on the boat sometimes, she would be the one who'd say, Riaan, we have no choice. It is tough now, but this is what we're going to show our mettle.
I want you to talk about the shark. You were telling me while we were prepping, you were talking about the shark and Fasti. What happened?
Fasti's a lawyer, hey? So she's, as you would imagine, with the robe on and Your Honor this, Your Honor that, and defending her clients. So she's in that world. If you can just imagine this boat busy bouncing around in the middle of the ocean, shark that we've just caught, fighting it and then bringing it right alongside, maybe 150 kilo shark, so more than twice her size. We had to cut the line near the shark's mouth because it was too big to bring on the boat, and we couldn't control it and risk of getting bitten by the sharks. Fasti wouldn't. I would say to her, you have to cut the line right by the shark's mouth. She could have just cut it maybe 10 centimeters or 20 centimeters. Fasti would grab the line right by the shark's mouth and then cut right by the shark's mouth where I would have liked to.
And we're talking about shark's mouth that could open.
A shark's mouth that would bite us in half, so it would be able to at least go that size. And I tell her often, when I was behind her holding the fishing rod, bringing the shark closer, I would have there shaking my head, going, no ways that Fasti is actually doing this. Because I don't know many brave guys, including me, that would just do that comfortably and just go and do it. So that's one story that just tells you how Fasti, I think, just grew and developed on this trip.
I want to go a little bit, because this is something that you haven't spoken about this in the interviews that I've seen. I don't know if you've spoken about it anywhere else, but about this love story.
Sure.
What came out about the two of you in this journey? You've been together almost 15 years. I remember the first time I interviewed you, I mean, I'd read your book, Around Africa in My Bicycle, and she was just about in every chapter. You mentioned her and what a strong support system she was back home. But what came out of this journey about the two of you?
I probably haven't spoken about it because the adventure and the I think the gorilla beating your chest, telling people what a great feat we had done, has dictated interviews. But the story is a love story, and it's amazing. We battled with each other sometimes. We battled, in 2.5 days not speaking to each other was our record. So we didn't.
And in a space like this, where you could pretty much touching each other all the time.
1.5 meters by 1.5 meter box we lived in. So the love story is one where it transcends just the petals on the floor and the beautiful sunsets, etc. It wasn't. It was where we got to know each other. People say to me, are you in a better place in your relationship than you were before? And I am so sure about that. I'm just infinitely sure. I just know that I do know her better, and she knows me way better. So when we do a documentary about this trip, we're going to tell that love story. It's going to be amazing. And adventure is going to be the sideshow. It's going to entertain. So, no, without a doubt, we've grown closer, and it sounds like a cliche, but if you don't grow closer after 4.5 months squashed in that little space with only each other to talk to, then something's wrong with your relationship.
You've done crazy things. Crazy. They are insane, mind-blowing. Somebody, I think it's Tim Noakes on your website, says that Riaan doesn't think like everybody else thinks. He's like in a completely different headspace. But on this adventure, with all the stuff that you've done, he said this, Tim said this a while ago before you had done this, you say that this has been one of the most grueling expeditions for you on a mental level. What made it that?
Nothing compares on a mental level with what we did, Fasti and I did on this journey. Other journeys and I see the luxury of it now. Specifically my Africa trip, I didn't understand, yes, the dangers I was in. I didn't understand the luxury of being able to be on terra firma, and then also being able to get to a next destination, or even stamp myself through into a new country or in a safer place. On this trip, for 4.5 months, I always ask people, what have you done for the last 4.5 months? And then somebody thinks, okay, I did this, I did that. We were squashed into that little box, day in, day out, week in, week out, month in, month out. Every time you woke up in the morning, there was no what should we do. You knew what you had to do. You had to row. 1.8 million strokes of the oars on this journey each. That's mentally numbing. We would sit for the last 2 hours and we'd try to talk about new topics. It's almost impossible. I think I irritated Fasti by keep on asking what she's making for dinner, but I asked that about 30 times in like 30 seconds. But mentally numbing. And we speak about mental strength. I think Fasti and I grew to a new level on what mental strength is. It's not even entertaining the idea that you're not going to carry on and you can't finish something.
One of the profound things that you say to me, Riaan, was that there was a goal. So it didn't matter what had happened. There was a goal, and you were going to get to that goal. And so you'd have storms, you'd have sharks, you'd have massive waves. At one time, you did capsize. And you continued. Just talk to us about that part. And I think so many people have focused on that. But for you, what was your main concern when that happened? Because obviously...
Fasti safety, yeah. Fasti safety, without a doubt. But I think you touch on, the intro to that question is, how do you just stay focused on that goal? And it's sometimes a theory. So we can sit in a conference and you get a speaker standing in a conference telling you how to be goal-oriented or goal-focused. And we've listened to a lot of those long-winded speeches. The bottom line is, in practice, you can actually understand how being goal-focused works. So Fasti and I said, when we got onto the boat, people said, how did you survive with each other? We had no choice. So everything comes back down to no choice. Seems a bit brutal, but when that's the reality, success is just going to come. It's as if it falls onto your lap.
I cannot imagine, though, that having been through that physically and mentally, that you wouldn't apply it now. I mean, for you, you're probably already doing it, but that you wouldn't apply it now with everything.
I do. No, my life is about that. I'm super goal-driven. I think one thing I've realized, and we don't know where our talents lie, sometimes mentally, sometimes physically, but for me, I am very, 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 very focused on the immediate. So I know what I need to do right now. So I know where I'm going. I know I need to get to New York. But all I need to do is just get up in the morning. I need to get up. Get up. Sometimes I say to Fasti, if we're going to go for a run or for a cycle and we're not keen, then I say to her, you know what? I'm with you. We don't want to go and run and we don't want to go and cycle today. We don't have to. But all I'm going to ask you is, let's just get dressed, get into our cycling gear or get into our running gear. Never, ever have we got into our cycling or running gear and not gone for the cycle or the run. Wow. Just do the thing for the immediate, and then you do apply it in your life. But a lot of people read their Facebook updates and they cliches and they one post to another post, but they don't apply those things in reality. I encourage people, take for once one thing that you read and one cliche that you've been moved by and actually put it into action.
When I was watching the video, I mean, you guys had blisters and in places that you don't even want to talk about, where you had blisters, and it just looked so painful. But I mean, you couldn't sit there and think, oh well, you know, we're going to nurse ourselves for 2 days or 3 days, despite the blisters in your hands and blisters in unmentionable areas and everywhere else. You had to get up and do it.
Yeah, with I was a big crybaby, so I was the one who had the blisters on the rear end, and I didn't think that I'd be such a crybaby. But then I was also determined. When we had to sit down and row, then I would row. But as soon as we stopped that hour, I would stand up, and then I would just tell I'm sore on my behind, and then Fasti, shame, she was good, shame, she really looked after me. But that's also, I see how tough she was, you know, like she didn't have the physical ailments as much as I did. And maybe because I was too brash with everything. But no, we did have some physical ailments in embarrassing places.
I mean, Riaan, I'm just thinking to myself, you know, it's kind of dicey waters to be in love with you and to be the chick that's by your side, because it's crazy. She says, I'd like to go to New York, and you're like, sure, we're gonna row almost 11,000 kilometers to get there.
I'd like it when you say it's dicey waters. It's the best way to put it. I think Fasti's learned to live with it. So after that bicycle trip, remember that she didn't know what she was getting herself into. So she agreed to the bicycle trip, hoping I would change my mind. Literally how it started. And she's seen how much happier I am as a person, how much healthier I am, how much vision we really have in our lives to live life. Even for her. She'll be the first one to tell you she wouldn't have been able to travel so much, see so many things, get to know so many new things about the world if it wasn't for that decision to climb on the bicycle.
Riaan, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, I want to get into your head a little bit, you know, just the way that your mind operates, because I think that this trip, I mean, I've been reading and following what you've been doing, and your PR person, Karen, has just been amazing and updating us on what's going on.
Sure.
There's just been so many metaphors that I see in there that anybody can use. Anybody who wants to do something meaningful in their lives can use. So we're going to take a short break, and then I want us to talk about that when we come back.
Perfect. Lovely.